device. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. So hi everybody, welcome. This is Nancy Brimhall. I wanted to welcome everybody to the webinar today. One thing I would ask, because I can hear this reverberation, can everyone mute their sound? We're going to have you do any questions you have, we'll have you send it by chat. You should be able to see up at the top of your screen, there's a pull down, and one of them says chat. You can type any questions you have. It'll go to everyone right now, and Lili, our presenter, will see them. So you can ask questions throughout the webinar, and we will certainly ask at the end for any additional questions. We have about 40 minutes with Lili, so I think we'll go ahead and jump in. We know people come and go in terms of their time, so we don't want to get out the gate too late here. But by way of introduction, I wanted to, in addition to the bio that you've certainly also seen on the promo for the webinar, I wanted to just share with you that Lili has been someone that I've known for maybe 12 years now. I've brought her in with a couple of our clients to help with the annual fund, and she's really become a treasured gem in our circle, but she also is employed full-time in the educational sector, and as you can see from what we shared before, she has an extensive background, particularly working with independent schools. She also is consulting with us. She does some certification for the independent school sector as part of a very elite team that comes in and helps determine if their efforts are where they should be to continue with their certification. So we feel really honored to have her. She's fully prepared to answer your questions. There's a couple of links you'll see later on the slides. We're going to try and show one of them. And we'll tell you more at the end about how you can access your own copy of the slides whenever you'd like. Anyway, Lili, let's get you going.
Hi, I'm Lili Rossi. Hi, I'm going to try again. This is Lili Rossi. Sorry, I was echoing so much. I was like, I can't do that for half an hour.
Hang on, there's a little problem.
Hi, this is Lili Rossi.
You guys hear her? Can you guys hear Lili? Oh, I would.
Hi, this is Lili.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Hi, this is Lili Rossi, and yes, I've been in independent school fundraising for about 15 years. And if you're listening to this webinar, it's because you are interested in an annual fund. And so thank you, because whether or not you're part of the social service sector or the health sector or the arts or whatever it is that you're doing to advance society, thank you very much. Your work is very important. So the very first thing I want to recommend is that you start with passion, whatever that passion is for whatever cause, your organization, the leadership, the people that you work with, the cause, whatever it is, start with passion, because that will drive everything else that you do. When you get up and go to work every day, you need to start with passion. In my experience, that can be for what you do, it can be the people you work with, but definitely start with passion. So we're going to start with what is an annual fund, and the annual fund is an annual ask by an organization for money for a specific fund for unrestricted giving. So what that does, it creates a donor pipeline, it creates your membership, it creates who is basically sustaining your organization, it creates an expectation of a giving cycle, it identifies potential leadership, you might find your future board members, and it identifies potential capital giving. So whenever you want to do a capital campaign, you're going to look to all the lead gifts within your annual fund each year to get to that. So what's your elevator pitch? What is the point of your organization? Why do you show up every day? So the point of your organization would be, we are here to serve children who need education. We are here to serve hospitals. We are here to serve the arts. Why do you show up every day? What is your passion? But also, why should they show up every day? So why should they volunteer? Why should they give to your organization? And more importantly, why should they give? So if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. So the very first thing you want to do is develop your case for support. And that is, why do you need money this year? What are you going to do with it? Are your financials strong? Do you have a strong board of trustees who are spending the money wisely? And also, what is the impact of my gift? Why should I give you $100 versus $1 million? So that's your case for support. Will help your donors decide how much they need to give. So what does your organization do for the community? What is distinctive? If you're saving animals, why should we give to you versus the 5 other organizations in town who are also saving the animals? So this is where you talk about what it is that is unique about your organization and what it is that you need to do this year. If you want to save 1 million puppies versus 100 puppies, and how can the donor become involved? What is in it for them? And by this, I mean, you want to not only attract them as a donor, but you want to get them involved as a volunteer. People who volunteer are much more likely to give, and this is key to attracting new donors. And so let's look at who it is you want to give to your organization. Who are your people? We're going to start with board members because they've already signed on as people who believe in you, believe in your mission, and believe in your cause. And these are most likely to be the largest givers to your organization. Next, we're going to look at members, and these are people who have signed on. Oh, thank you. And former board members, because talking about that donor pipeline, these are people who historically have also given to your organization, believe in your organization, and maybe if they've stepped off the board or rolled off the board, they're still going to be connected to you and be likely not only givers, but also help spread the word and be a great ambassador for your organization in the community. Next, we're going to look at members and people. Next, we're going to look at members and how they are not only committed to your organization by signing on as a member, but they're also now in your pipeline. You might have volunteers who are not members, people who might give of their time but not their money, and you want to convert them to donors as well. And the more often you invite them to show up and participate, the more likely they are to sign on. And even if they can't give a lot, whatever they can, they will. You're also going to look at past donors who maybe have lapsed a membership or have lapsed in their giving and try to re-engage them. This could be through newsletters. This could be through sending holiday cards. There are a lot of ways that you can get them signed on in the future because they've already believed in you in the past. And the next step is event attendees. And these are people who might show up to an event with a friend. It might be a free event. It might be something that like a gala, and maybe they just came as a guest of somebody. But once you have them on your radar, now they're in your pipeline, and now you want to figure out how to get them to give. So in the broader perspective, who are your donors in the broader community outside of your organization? I just wanted to take a peek at who gives. About 7 in 10 adults in the United States give away money each year. Women, and there are many research studies on this, tend to give more than men. Most people who give to nonprofits give to at least 5. So once they are in their hearts, they are givers to nonprofits. They usually don't focus on one, but at least 5 organizations, and as many as 15. About 20% of people on welfare give away money, and about 97% of millionaires give away money. And so you'd like to get them as your donors. Volunteers are much more likely to be donors than people who don't volunteer at all. And people historically give away more money, more people give away money than who vote. But the key to all of this is that people give when they are asked. And so we're going to get into how do we get people to give. So let's start with your goal. Each year, as you look at your roster, you want to increase gifts. And not only the amount of gifts, but you want the gifts you received last year to increase. You want to increase sponsorships, and that's sponsorships of your events, but also sponsorships of your programs. You want to increase memberships. You want to increase your staffing so that you can connect with more people, and you want to increase your visibility. So typically what I have found is that engaging people who have shown up to volunteer or have shown up to an event, especially a free event, making it easy for them to get more involved. So if they've already shown up to volunteer or as a guest to especially like a free lecture, have information available at the events that they can take with them and learn more about you. And we're going to touch on it later, but websites are your front-facing view. You need to have a strong website. And on that website, and we'll get into it, you want to make it easy for them to get involved and for them to connect with you. And the second they hit that website and have engaged with you that way and learn more about your organization, you want to make it easy for them to click and be part of it. So where is your organization right now? Are you brand new? Are you 50 years old? Are you going through a resurgence? Have you gone through a tough time? There were some economic downturns a few years ago, and people are starting to really rebound. Where are you right now? So the first thing you should do is examine what is your trending over the last few years and where are you? And who is your constituency? Because every constituency is different. Some people respond really well to old school communications. Some people, especially the millennials, are looking at different, newer ways to give. We all remember the Ice Bucket Challenge a couple years ago that really sort of set a new tone in fundraising and something that wasn't on everybody's radar. And then you want to develop an annual action plan. So what are all your touch points throughout the year where you're going to connect with people both to ask for money and to thank them, and to just keep them educated and informed about what it is you're doing with their money. The next thing is to create realistic goals. And by that I mean, if you raised $100,000 last year, I wouldn't put a goal of $1 million this year, but I would try to increase that incrementally so that you can show your board and you can show your director and your boss that you are moving the needle forward each year. The next step is to define the roles of the staff and volunteers, because if you have a large staff, you want to make sure that everybody's being efficient and not doing redundant work. And if you have a small staff, you want to make sure that you work smartly, but also farm out what you can to volunteers. So if you can use your volunteers as ambassadors, you can have a small team of 3 to 5 people, but accomplish just as much as a 20 to 25 person office if you have the right volunteers. And then the next step is to really set the expectations clearly at the outset. So what is your year going to look like? You don't want to lose that month of December when everybody's off in holiday mode, and you don't want to lose the summer months. You want to set expectations throughout the year. And how will you check in regularly to make sure that you don't need to do some course correction? If you do a mailing and you got 0 response on it, you don't want to let that go until the end of the year. So you really want to stay on top of things because some things might work, some things might not work. You might send an email, like a push page with a video, and you might get a lot of traction from it. So if you're checking in regularly, you can capitalize on that. and say, oh, we sent this out and we thought we'd get 50 responses. We got 500 responses. How are we going to really, circle back and try to repeat that maybe in 6 months? And the last thing is really to communicate, and communicate internally and communicate externally. I cannot stress that enough. You don't want people to say, well, I had no idea this was coming down the pike, and you want everybody to know what to expect next. And then we've talked about this, I've talked about this, is really developing your mission, but the more you have a strong mission and that you educate everybody about it, the stronger your plan will be. So for this, you really want to have, your strategic annual plan, and this will drive your operating budget because it will talk about how much staffing you need and how much you need to outsource, or maybe you need to bring in a consultant. But that also impacts how much you need, because how much you need for your annual fund is a line item in your budget. So if you can speak intelligently about what it is you're doing with people's money, they will feel good about giving to you, because donors are reassured by a clear demonstration of need, but they're also reassured that you're spending their money intelligently. And there are many watchdogs like GuideStar and a lot of nonprofits are rated by how much overhead they have with regards to how much they raise each year. And there's a few organizations that have come under fire in recent years for raising a lot of money and spending it on overhead or on things other than the cause that they're supposed to support. So let's move into the 4 Ps of fundraising. So especially with an annual fund, it's not an event, it's a process. And it's really a journey if you look at it over the course of the years. I know that with the organizations I support, if you start adding up what I've done, not just in 1 year, but over 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, it really has an impact. And so you want to keep your donors engaged in that. It really is a process that is not just about asking for money, but thinking and informing your donors as well. The next P is participation. So who's involved in identifying and engaging these potential supporters in your mission? So is that coming from the staff? Is that coming from your board? Is that coming from people maybe on staff but outside of the development office who know who shows up and volunteers every day? So really having that clear, everybody's part of the process, everybody's an ambassador will help keep your participation increasing. And that goes to the next step, which is people, because fundraising is about the people and building relationships. So that ask might come better from your director. It might come best from your board chair. But if you have people who are really great supporters and volunteers and they're interacting with the development staff on a regular basis, it might be the development director who has the most contact with them. And those would be the right person to continue building that relationship. But essentially, your organization needs a good fundraising plan in order to succeed. Without a plan, you have just a lot of chaos. So in fundraising, the basics in communication, it's attention, interest, desire, and ask. And I want to expand upon this a little bit, because with attention, you want to say, Dear Jane Doe, last year we raised over $1 million due to people like you. So now you've got their attention. And then you want to sort of pique their interest a little bit. And with that money, we saved 10 million dogs and cats. And now you want to bring them into the desire, like how can they get involved this year? And you say, well, this year we can double that impact. And then you ask them, you say, we hope that you will join us by making a similar gift this year. So you want to have your sort of flow with how you keep them engaged, you keep them informed, you tell them the impact of what they've done before, but you also get them interested in something that they care about and doing it again next year. And so you want to sort of hit all of those. And when it comes to communication, especially with the increase in technology these days, you want to make sure that your website, again, always reflects what you say in an annual fund letter, because you want to hit that message to all the different people who will read it differently, because everybody resonates, with something different. Some people will look at the letter in front of them. Some people will look at a website. Some people need an email. These days, some people respond via text. We have a lot of text to give campaigns. So we talked a little bit about stewardship, but those personal connections and really mining them, but also documenting them. So if you are communicating with everybody on your team and outside of your team regularly, you want to put all this information in the notes section of your website. so that anybody else can pull up that donor and see what the latest with them is. I'm personally a huge fan of the Moves Management System, which is kind of a whole other webinar, but documenting where they are in the process, because it's not just about on this date, so-and-so made a gift, and then a year later they made a similar gift or a little bit larger, but what were all those times that they had a connection in between them? And I strive for 7 to 10 touch points per year, and that can take a lot of different forms. I'll talk about that later, but really, who are the different personal connections, and what do you do between each annual fund ask, and how are they engaged? And that can, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But how do you communicate is also really important. The way you talk with donors over a certain age versus, a millennial is also really important. How often you communicate, and this should all be part of your annual plan so that you don't do it on the fly, but you really have a measured plan for how you're going to communicate with everybody. And always think outside the box. Think of other methods of communication. Something that we are able to do in smaller independent schools is taking a picture of somebody's child doing something great and texting it to them in the middle of the day. Just saying, hey, just thought you'd appreciate this moment. But you can do that with organizations with animals too, and it doesn't have to be a text. It could just be like a quick email, like, hey, this animal was rescued today, with a great picture, and say the impact of your gift was that we were able to sustain this dog for the last 30 days here at this shelter. And then again, always maintaining and utilizing your database. Make sure that your data is clean. There's nothing like a dirty database to really make you look ill-informed when you're talking to somebody, but also to not let somebody step in for you in your way. If all the institutional knowledge is in your head, you can't share that and make the organization strong. So communication's old style, which is probably how it was when I came into development ages ago, was about personal connection, and that was conversations, that was meeting for coffee, that was seeing them when they stopped by to volunteer, that was an annual fund letter that went out once a year, just a hard copy form. There's maybe a phone-a-thon to rally the cause from a peer. And then a nice thank you on stationery, and that's what everybody looked to. Like, that's how development looked. It was very kind of static. And these days, communications has taken on a whole new form in the last decade, and that can take the form of email. That would be people looking at your website. You have a Facebook presence. How you use it is up to you, but there are many ways to engage, not only by having a proper page, but also sharing information regularly, even if it's once a week. And it can be exactly the same information that you're putting out on your email. You just reiterate it. You just put it out in multiple formats. Depending on who your audience is, you might want to be on Twitter, and you might want to be on Snapchat, and you might want to, Instagram is a great method for sharing pictures and really sharing your story. And text, again, that text to give campaign is pretty popular, depending on if it works for you or not. But just remembering that there's no right way or wrong way, I highly suggest blending the two, because you're going to hit the widest audience that way, and you're also going to have, I think, double the impact, really, because you're still going to get a nice letter in the mail with a stamp, but you're also going to email 48 hours after you got that email, or after you got that online gift, to say thank you so much, we received your email, and then you'll have the opportunity to do a handwritten note on your tax letter that says thank you so much. And so again, with those touch points, it allows you to really increase the amount of times that you are pretty organically going to reach out to a donor. I wanted to do a quick note, because there are so many times that I have gone to websites and I've had to dig to try to give to them. And so I want to make sure that you all have a donate now on the very front page of your website, and that your mission and your impact and your case for support is no more than one click away from that homepage. And that could be just a giving button or about us or whatever it is that works for you. I want to make sure it's no more than one click, because people don't have time. People are on their iPads, on their iPhones, and they don't have time to sit and click around and look for a website or for the information. They're going to move on to the next thing on their agenda, or they're going to be on Facebook. And again, you can use Facebook and all these other social media strategies to really sort of keep your message going. And the good news is it's free. So with all the things that cost money in your overhead, using social media and push pages and videos and certain things actually could be very cost effective to getting your message out. And you can use that same information in multiple ways. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You write your news story, you write your impact story, you throw up some great pictures, and you blast it everywhere. And impact stories are, I think, one of the best ways to really engage donors. It's really nice to say, to send a letter in the mail and say, please consider giving to this organization. But if you can see and you can feel what your gift is doing, there's nothing like it.
Hi, hold on. We've lost the audio here for Lili. Give us 1 second.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm like an old school Sprint commercial. Okay. So the other thing is I wanted to go through the fundraising cycle and what that looks like. So the first thing is you're going to identify somebody, and that could be somebody who is maybe a big donor to another organization in town. That could be somebody who your board chair says, hey, this is my best friend, I think they would be great. It could be somebody that you meet who shares your passion. But once you've identified them, start doing your research. Figure out what else that person is given to, what else they're interested in, what college they went to, start gathering information. A long time ago, it was very difficult, and now we have Google. You can probably do a basic amount of research on anybody within 5 to 10 minutes. You can find out how long they've lived in your town, what else they're connected to, where they work. And from there, you can work on cultivation, which is really figuring out who is the best person to be their new best friend. And again, that might be development staff, might be your board chair, might be your, development, your executive director, but whoever that person is, you should start connecting with them and inviting them to come to events or inviting them for a cup of coffee to hear more about your mission. Or if you have somebody who's already part of your organization, a member or a volunteer or a staff member who's connected to them, maybe they're parents together at the same school, try to get them involved in the process and cultivating them. And then the next thing, when you feel they're ready, and this could be after 1 meeting, and this can be after 15 meetings. Only you'll know in your gut what's right, but then you can ask them for money. And you do that solicitation, and that could then be just your annual fund ask letter if it's that time of year. It could be a phone call just saying, you know what, your gift could really make a difference to us, and we'd love for you to make a gift to our annual fund campaign. But what you do after that, that stewardship, every time, everything that you do between asks, that's really the key. And that stewardship could be a newsletter. That could be a holiday card. That could be a birthday card. It could be sending a meaningful picture. Thank you so much for your $25,000. Because of you, we are able to do this. But really keeping that stewardship going will have all the difference in how engaged they'll be next time that you're going to ask them for money. So I put together sort of just a general annual calendar timeline. So I started it with direct mail, and then a phone-a-thon, and then a push page / video, postcard, personal request, and a think-a-thon. And that's just a very general timeline. But then the next slide is probably a little better because it's an actual example of what I do in the school year. And that is I send out a piece every September asking for money, stating my case for support. If somebody's given last year, I'll mention that gift and ask them to increase it a little bit or ask if they move up a giving level. But we follow that up with a phone-a-thon in October, and that's peer-to-peer. And so we'll have people within the different classes or as appropriate board to board actually call and make an ask to try to rally support.
Then in November, I'll do a little push page or a little thanks for giving type of email that will go out. And at the very end of it, it'll say, click here to give now. And then I'll either do a postcard or an email reminder in December saying, here's a reminder, if you'd like your gift to count for tax purposes in this calendar year, make your gift before December 31st. And for all the stragglers who have not responded to any of these strategies, I will personally make a phone call in January and say thank you so much for all that you've done for the school, and would you consider making a gift to the annual fund? And you can pledge now and pay it before the end of our fiscal year if that's what's been holding you back, but we'd really love your support. And then I try to do some sort of think-a-thon or a campaign. Again, that could be older students or alumni making phone calls to donors. That could be another beautiful push page that went out that says, thank you so much. Because of you, we have a new tech lab. Whatever that thank you is, I think that's really important, and it's another touchstone. And then the other piece that I skipped in here actually is also in the fall you'll get an annual report, a printed annual report on philanthropy. And that's another way that you might have a giving envelope in there, so it's sort of a passive ask, but it's another way that they're receiving something from you with pictures and stories and sharing the impact of your gift. Going back to that. And then depending on whether or not your development and marketing teams are together or whether or not they're completely different departments, I wanted to talk about marketing strategies because that will really inform your process for next year. So after each one of those asks, track how the donations are coming in. If something isn't working, that's the time to tweak it, or to take note that you sent out a letter in September and you got 90% of your gifts. So think about how you're going to use your time and energy. If that's really effective for you, then use your energy on stewardship or on attracting new donors. If that's not really effective, think about other ways that people are going to respond. I would look at also what type of gifts people are making. Are they gifts of stock? Are they credit card donations? Are they coming from people's phones? Are they coming from computers? And all of this information is trackable, and I think it'll really inform what you do for the following year. Again, always be flexible and know that one size does not fit all. I can tell you that for me, over the last several years, the amount of credit card gifts are always going up, and I think that's definitely something to consider because an organization loses 3% of their gifts from credit cards, and so that's something to keep in mind with your business office is how you're tracking credit cards versus checks, and how to keep that just as easy as possible for folks. And then the next thing I wanted to share was a video. Not clickable. Okay. Oh, it's not clickable. The video. Oh. If not, we can share it out. But I just really wanted to share an annual fund video. It's about 6 years old from Vassar, but it's a great sell for the annual fund, and it makes it so much sexier than just a letter on paper, on stationery, and it makes it very real and tangible. But that's something a lot of colleges are doing, especially the universities. But keeping things very real and very personal and keeping people interested and engaged is much easier, and it's actually free if you invest a little labor into an impact. Can this work? So again, back to the thinking strategies, I would just remember that no gift is too small, and by thinking and stewarding people, even when they're a volunteer who's giving you $25 a year, those are the people who are already engaged, and so when they do have more capacity to give, they're going to be so much more likely to give bigger gifts. And so just keep thanking people throughout the process, and always looking for board engagement and allowing the board also to be part of the thanking process, because sometimes board members say, you know what, I want to support you, but I'm not a great asker. But the more they get involved in the thanking of donors, the more likely they are to be an asker in the future because they're going to feel that connection. But most of all, just celebrate the impact of what it is you're doing with your annual fund and share your stories. That's it.
So I want to thank everybody. Please send your questions. You can text them in. I can see that there's a couple that have gone on to Lili. Sorry, we're going to pull it up so she can see the questions. So please ask your questions, and she'll take a moment here to answer any of them. Here we go. She can see them now.
Okay, so how do you convert event attendees? We talked about that already.
So you're muted, Lili.
There. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So converting attendees.
Okay. So how do you convert event attendees? I think I addressed that already in terms of once they're on your radar, once you have their contact information, like their address and their email address, now you can start sending them newsletters. You can start telling them what it is that you do and inviting them to be involved. But also you can figure out how they got to you. Did they come with a member? So maybe you ask that member if they would, consider asking this family, this person, this couple, if they want to become members as well. Donors, let's see, an example of getting a past donor to re-engage. That's a similar one in terms of sharing with them what you're doing, but it also can be as easy as picking up the phone and calling them. I know some people actually do still talk on the phone, but asking them why they were part of your community initially, and ask them if they would like to re-engage, ask them to share their story, and it could be just a lapse, like they just, life got in the way and they got too busy. But it's also a chance to engage them in case they had a bad experience. Give them the forum to share it, and give them the forum to talk about, what it is that made them unhappy. And that way you can, on behalf of your organization, you can apologize. And you can say, I'm really sorry that that happened, and I'm really sorry that you feel that way. Would you like to come by and let's talk about what it is we're doing going forward. We'd love to have you back as part of our community. Let's see. Scrolling through my picture. Okay. Do you typically ask donors how they would like to be contacted? Yes, because everybody is different. Some people prefer email, some people prefer hard copy mail, some want both. Some, yeah, I would be very sensitive to that. Phone numbers and emails on your website, always, always. Again, I think the more ways that you have for people to engage, if you're at work and you're on the website, you might just pick up the phone. You're at home on the couch at 10 o'clock at night, you're probably more likely to jump on a website, but just always have that. But also, when people can call you, they can ask questions and get more information, and the more information they have, and the more they're connected they feel to another human being, the more likely they are to give, quite honestly. And that's how it is with me personally as well for the organizations that I give to. If I know that I can shoot a quick email and get a response pretty quickly, I know that they're on top of it. I know that they're spending my money well. I know that I feel good about giving to them. Let's see. What if my executive director just doesn't understand how to develop an appropriate goal and I keep having very unrealistic goals? This is a conversation that should be expanded to include like a finance committee and a business manager. And this is where your data is really important because if you can look at trending and you can say, I've been raising $100 million every year. I can't raise $1 billion. You really need to look at trending, and you really need to be realistic. And I would also bring in real world expectations. And so, I mean, personally, I look at the stock market. When the stock market was low several years ago, people weren't feeling very philanthropic. So I pleaded with my finance committee to sort of hold. I didn't say it was going to go down, but I said, can we just hold? I would make that a bigger conversation. And what that also does is it makes everybody a stakeholder in that conversation. So everybody's invested in the outcome, but everybody understands why you want your goal to be the way it is. And conversely, if you had 3 new board members come on who are all, wealthy billionaires, You might say, you know what, I think we can increase the annual fund goal modestly, but maybe let's keep them in our back pocket for a capital campaign or something bigger. But you don't want to have an annual fund that fluctuates like a roller coaster, and you don't want one that is $500,000 one year, $1 million the next year, and then fluctuates back, because it's harder for the board to plan. So I would kind of bring everybody in and say, these are my concerns. I raised $500,000 last year, and now you're asking me to raise $1 million. This is my same constituency. I don't see any huge change. The market's kind of holding, but we're in an election year. So I would keep all those variables, but I would bring everybody into the conversation and kind of force them to make a case for an unrealistic goal. But to do it in front of other people. So I would, have your business manager, I would have your finance committee chair, I would have your trustee chair, I would have everybody in that conversation. And that way it just doesn't fall on development to suddenly come up with a crazy amount of money. Experience with developing a good working relationship with board members that are supposed to be helping with fundraising. I would reach out regularly. I would call them and say, look, we need to meet, twice a month. When can you do it? When works for you? Do you want to do it before work? Do you want to do it in the middle of the day? I can be available at 6:30 on Thursdays. But the more that they're invested and they're meeting with you and you show them what it is that you're doing when you're away from them, then they sort of feel like, well, I could do a little bit to help out. So if you say, in the last 2 weeks since we met, I've got all this and all this work, but could you help me out with these 2 people, these 3 things? Can you help me with that one connection to a grant writer or something along those lines? But definitely stay on them, but also be flexible. Meet when they're willing to meet. If they say they can only meet on Saturday mornings at 6 a.m., I would make myself available Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Because you do need to engage everybody, and also by showing them that you're that committed, you're kind of forcing their hand. They're on the board, they should be that committed. Database preference, that's a good one. For small organizations, I'm a fan of Donor Perfect because they're cloud-based and they're not crazy expensive, and most of the other smaller databases have been snatched up by Blackbaud. And if you're a larger organization, I do love Blackbaud, but it does have a lot of bells and whistles. But there are many, many others. I just personally, for smaller organizations, I like Donor Perfect. Code preferences. Well, in Donor Perfect, you can do that for sure. But you can customize it so that you can put all of their preferences. So is this in terms of communication preferences? Is that what you're asking?
How do they want to get their mail?
Yeah. So I would have all those options and like radio button it so that you could have all of them selected, because you can export that data pretty quickly. And again, I would use I would use every communication preference that they say that they like. I would do it all at once. So if they want a text message and an email and a postcard, I would do all 3 at once, because how they're going to respond on that one day to that one bit of information, you never know. I mean, the postcard could get lost in the mail and they lost their phone, but they got the email, So I would really be flexible and communicate in every way imaginable. And again, you don't have to really reinvent the wheel. It can be the same piece of information, the same picture each time. You just put it out in multiple ways.
Okay, it looks like that's all the questions. Shoot anything that you've got in. If you have a second here, otherwise we're going to say thank you. And just a reminder, we post all of our webinars on our website, which is brimhallassociates.com. Give us a few days and we'll get it up. We'll also send you an email with a link, so you can pull it right up, save it if you want, and view it as many times as you want. So we'll also give you Lili's contact, so if you have any direct questions or need anything specific from her, I know she's very generous with her information, and please consider her a true colleague in your life now. So we look forward to having you participate, hopefully, in the next of our series. And Lili just gave me a great idea, which is we need one on moves management. So we'll sign her up again. Anyway, thank you so much, and we look forward to staying in touch. Take care.